I'm Marvin Logan, and I'm a beekeeper hobbyist. Okay, we're gonna now extract the honey from the frames that we harvested. I've got a container here that we'll use to capture the cappings, which we're going to cut off with this electric knife. It's just a heated knife. It'll melt the wax. They'll fall into here. You can kind of see in here there's a grate, and that'll catch some of the wax cappings. It won't capture everything. That will collect down underneath there, and there'll be some honey along with that as well that we'll get later. We'll take once we cut the cappings off, I've got this extractor, just a hand crank extractor. It can hold 3 frames at a time. So we'll put those in there 3 at a time. We'll spin them, and then centrifugal force will force the honey out of the comb. Then we'll flip them and do the other side, and the honey will be dripping down the side of this container here. It'll collect down at the bottom, and then we have this honey gate down here, and we'll use, once we get enough of that in here, we'll put it into a container. We'll strain the wax that comes off with it. So that's kind of the whole process. We're going to go ahead and get started. We just do it 1 frame at a time until we're done. You can see there's a little screw there that kind of holds this in place a little bit, so you can kind of work it a little bit easier. And I can feel that this is already getting hot. So we're going to cut it off.
Oh yeah, look at that.
So that you can see that there's
There's definitely honey coming off too.
There's honey coming off, and that'll collect, and we'll get all that as well. I'm just trying to make sure I get all the capping off, because once I go to spin it, if there's capping on there, it probably won't let the honey come off.
Wow.
So you can see this side here is a little bit.
They didn't have as much on there?
No, it just that they didn't build it out as far. Well, I'll use this comb, and I'm just going to use it to break open the tops of the caps. Kind of scratch them open. This gets pretty messy pretty quickly. If there's any on this side that the knife didn't get, I just want to make sure I get those too.
So that it can get out?
Yeah, so that the wax cappings don't stop the honey from.
And you're going to get all the honey that's dripping down from there, right?
Yeah, so the honey that is dripping down and going here is collecting, and it'll kind of screen out. I'll even try to extract as much of the honey as I can from the wax cappings that don't easily come out. So that one looks about ready. We're going to put that in here. We'll do another one. So it's just they call it a hot knife. It's just a knife that heats up. So that I'm basically just melting the wax.
Ooh.
You kind of hear it sizzling there.
Is it a bee specific tool?
Yes, it is. Yeah, I bought all this stuff from Kelly Bee Equipment in Kentucky. They're owned by Man Lake, so a lot of this you'll see if you look at some of the tools, some of the, like this extractor says Man Lake on the side, but I didn't buy it. Man Lake is in Minnesota, but they own Kelly, which is in Kentucky, which is incidentally where I got 2 of my nucleus the bees that we harvest this honey from. So somebody had asked me, about taking the bees' honey, and does that hurt the bees, and do they need it to survive? The bees will make more honey typically than they need. Now the first year, you probably won't get much honey from a hive if it's a new colony, because they'll make probably just enough for themselves, and it's very unlikely that you'll get any the first year. Technically, these are first year bees, but because of my situation where I lost the 2 hives, and the new bees started with the bees I started this spring had the advantage of having all the comb for 3 boxes already built out, which is the first thing that the bees need to do before they can start collecting honey, is build out the comb, or even having brood. And they had that all done already for them by the previous bees that I had. So they had a huge head start compared to just bees that you would get right out of the box, so to speak. So these bees are going to be fine with what I took. They'll continue to make honey for themselves throughout the rest of the summer. We have, it's late July here. It's the last day of July. They'll have, another month of the summer. I will also start probably in August, as the nectar flow starts slowing down. I will feed them syrup, like a sugar water, and they will use that to make some additional like a honey type substance. It'll be sugar water honey, I guess you'll call it. Nothing that we would want to use ourselves. They don't care. I mean, to them it's the same. And they'll use that if they need it for the rest of the winter. But I typically want to leave about 60 to 90 pounds of honey for the bees for the winter. And although I don't measure weight by weight how much I do, I really don't have a way to do that. I just make sure that I leave them plenty of more than enough honey for the winter. This side, you can see I couldn't really get to it with the knife, so I'm just going to have to scrape this just to break open those caps. Alright. Now, because this is just kind of temporarily set up in my garage, I put this away whenever I'm done using it. It's not anchored down at the bottom. It's got holes down there. If you were going to mount this somewhere, you could anchor it, but I can't do that here in my garage. So when I spin this thing, it'll tend to move because it's not 100% balanced. So I have to kind of really hold it down as I am on it. So okay. And it actually gets worse with the balance as you do the other side. You can kind of see what this did. So it drew that comb and just like sucked all that honey right out of there.
Wow.
So and now I'm going to spin around to the other side.
Is that enough? Just a hard crank?
Yeah. Now this will be really out of balance because that last one I had, I could feel it was a lot lighter than this one. This one had a lot more honey on the side that I haven't spun yet. So it's going to be super out of balance. Feel it when the honey is pretty much out of all the sides, or the majority of it. You can just feel it's starting to it balances out. So all right, so those are pretty You can see that how that's kind of nicely. You can kind of see the comb pattern really well on this one.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of nice. This one, not so much, but all the honey's out of that. It doesn't feel nearly as weighty. You can extract the honey by hand. You could just cut all this up, put it like in a cheesecloth,
And just let it drain.
and just let it drain and squeeze it. You know, that's what I had to do the first year because I didn't have these tools. I just bought this all this year. But the first year I had a little. I did like I wanted to try a little of the honey, so I just did a couple frames, and I had to do it all by hand. It took a long time, and it's really messy. Those frames that I just used, and I'm storing them there. I can put them back on in the hive, and the bees will clean it up and then reuse it. So.
That looks delicious.
Yeah, you can. A lot of people will just eat the comb too. It's edible.
So where does the honey go? It goes to the bottom here, and then
Yeah, you can kind of probably see it maybe on this side. It's just collecting, and there's still wax in it and everything. So we'll when we empty this thing out, we'll strain it.
look at all that delicious honey in there. Do people ever do anything with the wax?
Yeah, so I've got a whole bunch of wax that I've saved up that I haven't I just haven't had the time yet to do it. But you can make candles. That's probably what I'll end up doing, making candles out of it. People make like lip balm. I mean, it's
Oh, is that what Burt's Bees is made out of?
yeah. That's I'm sure there's other things you can do. I mean, that's kind of the main two things. I've got enough now that I could probably spend a Saturday and render it out and make beeswax candles out of it. I also use it. I save it and I use it to. That's a good frame, yeah. To coat my new foundation with. I kind of rub it on there a little bit so that it kind of attracts the bees up to it, so they'll smell it and feel like they can get it. A huge fan of this wax foundation because it just gets destroyed in these things. See that? But the bees tend to like it. Because it's made out of wax. And it entices them to go and start new comb.
Mm-hmm.
But it gets
Totally
destroyed.
falls apart, yeah. You said the plastic ones last?
Yeah, they'll last. So all I've got it's a 5-gallon pail with a honey gate on it, and I'm going to put this filter on it. This is a 600 micron filter, and that'll get rid of most of the or get rid of all the impurities that we don't want. And there it goes. You can still see there's some wax coming out at the gate with the honey, but it'll get filtered out with that 600 micron filter, and then just go right into the bucket. And then you can see there's a honey gate down there at the bottom of that bucket. All we do then is use that, open it up, and start filling bottles. So it's pretty easy. You'll see, raw honey advertised. That's what this is. This is raw honey. It's been filtered, but not really overly filtered. So it's going to have a lot of the good health, qualities and purities that you want in natural honey.
Look at that.
Ooh, 3 bees in here now. So I will just move this off to the side here. I'll put a lid on it.
Wow.
And that'll filter a little bit. By the time it filters, it'll look really clear. It'll be clear honey. That's enough of a filter that you're going to get all the big chunks of wax and all that kind of stuff. So it'll be fine. I don't know what they do in the stores, to be honest with you. There's even a little bit of there was a kind of a scam at one point that people were saying that stuff that's advertised as honey is really not really all 100% honey. It's honey and sugar water. So I don't know if that's true or not, but at least I know what this is. I know where this came from. These wax ones, what I've been doing is I'll take out all the wax in these, and I'll try to squeeze out as much of the honey as I can by hand with the cheesecloth, and then I'll have I'll use the wax, for candles or whatever, because you can see there's still some honey in there, but not a lot. But I can't get it out with this, so I'll have to just squeeze it out by hand. It takes a little while, but there's still quite a bit of honey in there. Okay, so the last step here is to go ahead and bottle this. You can kind of see I've still got a bunch of honey and wax that's being filtered. The filter's still in here, but I'm only up to about here right now on the line. I've got a lot more honey to put in that I haven't yet, and it's going to gravity just going to continue to work on this thing until all the honey is done. To kind of give you an idea of what it's going to look like when I'm all done here. And usually I'll put something underneath here so don't